another edition of Talking Fitchburg on this Friday, July 17th, 2020. I'm Jeremy Crosby. Hoping you're having a wonderful day out there. I know I did here at home working. It was a nice day out there, though, today, and temperatures are going to heat up into this weekend. And we are going to talk about that. In fact, we'll spend our second segment in the digest replaying a package piece that we did, interview with our emergency manager, Joe Polvemacher, talking about the extreme heat. So we don't want to take too much time off the top here as we got to get to that. Plus, we're going to preview Open Book. Yeah, your assessing department has completed, and your assessments are going to be mailed out to you, and we want to break it all down for you. So we'll check in with Amy here in just a little bit as well in our guest segment. But first, we do turn to the headlines, and I start with good news today. Grandview Road opening. Yeah, it's back open, folks. Check it out. Yeah, you had a new culvert that was installed at Grandview Road, and the road is now open to through traffic. So project, even with a little bit of rain on Wednesday, was still able to move forward, and crews putting in that huge culvert there, and yeah, looks pretty good. Good job, guys. All right, other news, I've got another road opening to tell you about, and it's at KPEC. That's right, KPEC at County PD, McKee Road, will open up tonight, anticipation at about 8 p.m. tonight. Maybe sooner, pending what's going on out there, but that is open and good to go. All right, if you're looking for something to do and getting your kids to read this summer, I've got some tips for you. Check this out. Trying to come up with ideas for keeping your kids reading throughout the summer, well, it can be challenging. Create a fun reading space. Set up a tent or a creative reading area to make the experience that much better, making reading of an adventure. Try reading inspired field trips with discussions of dinosaurs, plan visits to local museums, and more. And yeah, you could try encouraging choice, allow your children to choose the books. That always gets adventurous for us. I'll just say that here. And more resources available at the website. All right, that does it for the headlines. Got more to come. We'll talk about heat safety next, right here on Talking Fitchburg.
Cuando estaba en crianza temporal, nunca sabía cuándo me iba a tener que mudar, así que siempre tenía mi maleta lista. Y un día me adoptaron. Mis nuevos padres me abrieron sus corazones y su hogar. Ellos me cocinan mi desayuno favorito todas las mañanas. Mis padres me llevan a viajes que jamás pensé podría ir. Me dieron un hogar y una mejor excusa para usar esa maleta. Mis padres no son perfectos, pero son perfectos para mí.
Some chores you dread. You do them. But that doesn't mean you're happy about it. Then there's registering with the Selective Service. If you're a young man turning 18, the law says you have to register. It'll keep you eligible for college loans, government jobs, and training, and it only takes 2 minutes, which makes it not only your most important chore, but the easiest. When you turn 18, register at sss.gov or the local post office.
Welcome back into Talking Fitchburg. Joining me today from the Fitchburg Fire Rescue, it's your fire chief, Joe Polvemacher. Joe, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Jeremy?
I am staying cool, and that's what we want to talk about today. As the heat is set in southern Wisconsin, and for some reason this year we're just getting warm temperatures. I've been reminding people that you could think back to the wintertime when you were wishing it was warm out. So maybe that's the cool down internally people need, pull that energy in. But while we get through these long periods of heat, I think it's a good opportunity to talk a little bit about safety, both from what you guys are out there helping people with and keeping safe, but also what your staff does to stay safe in these circumstances. And then you top it with COVID-19 as well. It's a tough scenario right now. So first piece here is just for heat-related illnesses and getting out of those extremes from emergency management standpoint, what should people do when we get into these extreme heat situations?
Anytime we start dealing with heat, I think there's a couple of things that we can do to prepare ourselves, even outside of the temperatures, the extreme temperatures. And one of those things is to hydrate often, drink a lot of water, and just understanding that not all beverages hydrate, right? So even when we step away from the water, go to something like soda, or if you're in a position where you can drink alcohol with a picnic or something like that, it's imperative to note that those beverages will actually create a dehydration issue. So it's better to just pre-hydrate as much as possible, drink water often, and that will be of assistance. And the other things that we need to be aware of is where we're going. Are we going to be outside? Is there going to be shade? Is there the ability to step out of the heat? Those are things that a little bit of preparation really does go a long way, because you may have to bring something with you, like a shade, an umbrella, a tent, something to get out of the direct sunlight, and then to know where your cooling off areas would be in the event that you just have a situation where muscle cramps set in, or you notice that you're having some extreme temperature related fatigue. So that's what sort of helps us through these things, is not only understanding what our forecast is going to be, how hot it's going to be during the course of the day, but then what we do in the event that regardless of how hard we try to stay out of the heat, it overwhelms us. So where do we go? Do people know where we're going to be for the day? So calling family members and saying, hey, we're going to be out at the beach or something, just to give them the opportunity to check in with you in the event that they haven't heard from you. And that is especially important if you're going alone. Preferably in these situations, you do what you can to check in and have somebody check up on you or be with you so that you can keep an eye on each other. But I'd say the best thing that we can do right now, regardless of where you are, is just start drinking water. And that's a really good start.
Yeah, I think those are all wonderful tips, and some that you may just not even think about, if you're not used to these temperatures. And we haven't seen a heat wave like this in a while. I was looking back in the day. It looks like 2012 was maybe a hotter period where we've seen some numbers like this. Joe, as far as from the emergency management side, when we look at that side of things, we're thinking bigger picture here. If electricity goes away and you lose that air conditioning, and yet where is that planning fit in, both for what residents should be in the back of their mind, but also from your standpoint too?
Residents should start thinking about a number of different things. As with any situation that involves preparedness, just knowing where your shelters are is a good start. Just knowing if you have family that don't necessarily live within the same area that you live is a good start, just so that you have a place to go in the event that your home is too hot to stay. And we do know that those that are older and the very, very young have a tough time regulating temperature on their own. So it becomes even more important for us to be able to have things like air conditioning. We know that some of our older population, they don't always notice when it is hot in their homes or warm in their homes. And they don't necessarily prepare their environment appropriately. And then when outsiders or other family members or responders come into their home, we notice that the temperature is considerably higher, which may contribute to heat-related illnesses. So those are all and that's all a start. And so do you have a go bag that has things like your medications, your contact information, a change of clothing, some water? I mean, those things you can go on to the American Red Cross website and find a really good list that could be used in a preparation standpoint from emergency management in the event that you have to evacuate. The other things that we're doing on an emergency management side is just identifying where those shelter locations are. And with COVID and with some governmental buildings being shut down, we have to plan that in advance. We do know that through the county, the Alliant Energy Center has been identified as a cooling space. But in places that we would typically send our population, to the library, to the senior center, to the community center, are not necessarily available. They may be available to us in an emergency, but in the day-to-day, when you're looking for a place to cool down, go on to the public health site, the public health of Madison and Dane County, and just take a look at where those cool off sites are, or where those cool down sites are, so that you may have a place to go in the event that something happens and you are unable to maintain air conditioning, or you get into a situation where you feel superheated.
Joe, for your staff side, what does staff do during this time? Because I can't even imagine having to deal with a fire or even donning the safety equipment that you do now. Uh, what are you telling the staff during these long periods of heat?
Some of the same things that I just shared. We hydrate frequently, hydrate often, in advance of the emergency. Keep an eye on each other. We never work alone in these situations. We don't necessarily ask a firefighter to overextend themselves by going inside of a fire for more than one bottle. We want them to come back out, and by bottle I mean that's the air that they breathe on their back. Typically lasts about 20 to 30 minutes. And after that, after being in a superheated environment with basically thermal protection on, not only does it keep the heat out, but it keeps the heat in. So we need to come out, we need to take a look at those firefighters. We need to make sure that they are not working to the point of exhaustion, and give them a quick checkup before we assign them to any other task. That's important from a preparation standpoint, and we may have to keep them out for the rest of the fire, and we may have to send them in to be evaluated. It all depends on how they present and what their assessment looks like. But we do have to take those precautions. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to call in help a lot faster, a lot sooner. We don't necessarily think that we're going to be able to handle it with the same amount of resources, because if we're cycling people out, we're going to need more people to come in. And so you might see more vehicles responding to a house fire that wouldn't typically require that high level of response. But
Yeah,
the emergency incident manager needs to keep an eye on that and prepare for those additional steps, because they will be required.
Yeah, I think of we we talk about the similar thing when it gets really below freezing, and it works in similar ways, maybe different circumstances to the body, but ultimately it's safety first for public safety. And I appreciate you explaining it. I think it's good for people to know that it's really the same. You know, you're following the same things to stay hydrated. A final question here, Joe. If anybody has any concerns about where they're living at, or any issues with staying cool, what could residents do at this time?
If it is an emergency, or you feel like it's an emergency, and that's a gut reaction, that's something that you just have a feeling about. If you feel like it's an emergency, dial 911. We'll be able to send somebody there to not only evaluate you, but to evaluate your environment, to give you a better indication as to what's needed next. If it's a generalized question, and this is sometimes subject to office hours, you can always call the fire department. Our non-emergency number is 270-7070. You call us, look for somebody to answer your questions. And if they have any question about what is happening on your side of the phone, that we'll come out and we'll evaluate, just to make sure that we're not taking anything for granted and that you're safe. I think one other thing that I would like to pass along is with the increased use of things like respiratory protection and face masks, there is the potential that you might feel superheated a little bit sooner, because you're in some situations that exhaled air that you're basically breathing out. It may be breathed back in or inhaled in a way that creates a little bit of a carbon dioxide, carbon dioxide concern. It's not enough to say that that should prevent you from wearing a mask, but you need to keep an eye on your overall well-being and your feelings of fatigue, because you may have to get into a position where you can maybe excuse yourself from a situation where you're in the public, to be able to take a break from that mask just for a little bit, take a couple of breaths of fresh air, and just make sure you're cooling down appropriately.
That is a really good point. That with the extra heat already, and just trying to feel like you're catching your breath. I mean, if you feel like you're breathing really heavy, or just it doesn't feel right, yeah, remove yourself from everybody, and try to take some breaths to bring yourself back to that normalcy.
And I want to be clear. I'm not using this as an excuse to not wear the mask. There is so many very good benefits to wearing the mask and preventing the exchange of anything that could potentially be contagious. So there's extreme value, especially in a public situation, be wearing those masks. I just want you to keep an eye on yourself so that you can excuse yourself from that area in the event that you have to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something we've never dealt with. What's one thing to wear a mask, but taking it through all the different situations definitely is worth adding to the checklist. Joe, thank you so much for going through everything with us. We appreciate it. Stay safe out there, and we'll look forward to having you back on the show soon.
Thanks for having us.
All right, Joe Polvemacher, your fire chief here, and emergency management director as well. We appreciate his time as always, and stay safe out there. And please, if you got any questions, feel free to call the fire department, police department, or EMS. They're here to help you. We'll take a quick break. More to come. You're watching Talking Fitchburg.
I got into business as a hobby. I wasn't really thinking seriously. I said, somebody need to teach me so I don't go bankrupt. So I went to a store and I met Terry. I talked to her about my party business. This woman understands what I'm saying. There are people with amazing knowledge right there and free. My table linen entertained the First Lady and the Russian First Lady. That's good enough for me.
Get your free business mentor at score.org.
Home fire drills give your family a plan of action. In a home fire, you may have less than 2 minutes to get out. So when you drill, show everyone 2 ways out of the house, pick a safe meeting spot, and get there in under 2 minutes. Then practice home fire drills at least twice a year. You can even make them fun. So everyone knows the sound and exactly what to do when they hear a smoke alarm. Go to ready.gov/fire drill and learn how to prepare your family for home fires.
Welcome back into Talking Fitchburg. Joining me today is Amy, your assessor of the city of Fitchburg. Amy, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Jeremy?
I am doing wonderful. If I can get my earpiece back in there. There we go. I am doing wonderful, and I'm glad to have you here today as we get closer to the open book session here, which will be starting on Wednesday, July 22nd through Friday, August 7th. Things are a little bit different in as far as appointments go, but as far as assessing goes, your your job is the same. There are some things that you've worked on very hard, and I know your staff's been working tirelessly during this whole time, and always, of course, but especially more than ever here. First, just tell us a little bit about the open book session.
Okay, so open book is running, like you stated, from July 22nd through August 7th, from 7:30 in the morning till 4:30 in the afternoon. Due to COVID, we're going to handle everything over the phone. So you can call our office at 608-270-4235, our main line, and we'll talk to you about your assessment if you have questions or concerns. Or disagree with what that value is. We will do via Zoom if we need to. We can do a Zoom walkthrough with a property owner. So if they have a camera on the laptop or their phone, we can schedule in a meeting like that if you think there's some type of condition issue or some problem with the data. So we'll do that instead of coming out and walking through your property this year.
Good to hear. Tell us a little bit about how do we get to this point? So what have you been doing to get everything ready here in what's called the roll, getting it all ready to go and out? Kind of give us the steps to get to up to our open book session.
Okay. Well, this year we've had a lot of changes. We've worked, like you said, we've worked really, really hard on this assessment roll. Throughout this year, well, we've had COVID, so we've had to work through that. And then we've also had a lot of staffing changes. And sometimes when you have staffing changes, you have fresh eyes and you find fresh things and new aspects that we want to review in that. So throughout this year, this is a revaluation year. And so we reviewed all the vacant land sales this year, and we've updated all of our land tables. So the land values will be changing based off of the land sales. And also we can use improved sales and abstract out the land values for like new construction. So we can take those new sale prices and take out the building costs to arrive at a land value based off of those. So we've updated all of our land values this year. We've also updated all of our cost tables. So we've moved to the most recent cost tables based on the Wisconsin Department of Revenue's Volume 2. And so whenever you do that, that alters values also because there's new values. So a second floor might have a different value than it had previously for the same square footage versus first floor. So that percentage or difference might come in slightly different. So we've updated those cost tables based on that. We also, when we did that, we removed all overrides. So anything that had any type of market adjustments, any type of overrides, we basically reset the entire values. So we removed all those overrides and started fresh with these new cost tables. And then when we review the sales, we apply market adjustments based on those sales. And sometimes when we do that, we'll find a certain neighborhood or a certain style of a house, like a split level or a bi-level. It might sell different. So even though the whole neighborhood appears to be a 7% change, we might find that actually the 2-story homes are only coming in at a 5% change, but the 1-story homes are coming in at 10%. So then we'll stratify again and arrive at, we just keep stratifying until we get those values as close as we can to those sale prices. We also looked at commercial properties this year, and we did a deep dive into the commercial properties. Previously, they had always valued those like outside the system, the CAMA system that we use, and using spreadsheets or hand calculations. And this year, we entered everything into our CAMA system to list each building based on those buildings' attributes.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and I know we're just scraping over the surface here. But let's dive into some examples here. Being a homeowner myself, I'm thinking of things that questions that may pop up during this. So let's just say your value, your assessment went up, and you're like, well, why is it assessed so high? I don't think it's worth that much, and everything in between. I didn't put a new roof on. I don't have a deck. I didn't do any updating. So why are you making mine value go so up? How would you approach that question? I know it's hard to say because we're not talking about a specific property or area, but what do you say to questions like that?
So first, what we like to do is we like to discuss the data on your house first, and we'll talk through it with you and say, okay, do you have a fireplace? We want to make sure that data is listed correctly. So if we didn't get in the property, it might be estimated, and we might not have that data accurate because we're using the best information we have if we don't enter it. So first, we want to make sure that's accurate. And then we'll talk with the property owner and explain that the change in the value is because you have other properties that have sold within your neighborhood. That's typically what drives that change then, if you didn't make any changes, if you didn't add a deck or basement finish. So your neighbor's house, which might be identical to your house, sold, and it's sold for $10,000 more than what it had been previously assessed for. So let's say it was $200,000 before, and it sold for $210,000. Well, that would mean it went up 5% for that property. No, yeah, 2.5%. Sorry, I'm doing my math in my head.
Hey,
so that would apply the same percentage to your property. Yeah. So when we revalue, we want to have that at fair market value. So we'll apply those markets. And another thing we did this year, I was able to actually use the CAMA system and automatically, it took like, I think almost a day, 24 hours, I think, to input all the comparable sales. So every property is pulling in sales. And then we were able to go through each property and look at that. So if a property owner calls us, we'll talk to them about that. We'll look at those comparable sales, make sure they're good. So we want to explain kind of the basic aspect of it's really changing because of market then. But we need to make sure that data is accurate, because if it's not, then their value won't be accurate.
Yeah, and so this isn't a one-way conversation. This is a work through together to get the best assessment possible, which I think can be sometimes be hard for homeowners to understand. I was nervous the first time I went and talked to an assessor. I wasn't nervous talking to you. I like you. You're nice. But that can be nerve-wracking, and you want to, it's hard to comprehend everything that's going on in there. And the good news is you're working with our staff to put together some materials, some videos to help explain all of this. Tell me a little bit about that real quick.
So we're working to put together a video that kind of explains some of the resources for property owners. It talks about the open book and board of review. There are different guides at the Department of Revenue. So we've put together a little video that will be posted out there that you can kind of look at links. We have a sales book out there. So that little short video will also explain how some of those resources can be used by property owners.
Fantastic. I'm so excited to get that out there. And if people want to learn about more information regarding all of this, like you said, going to the website. It's the best resource right now. And if people want to give you a call, how can they do that, Amy?
They can call us at 608-270-4235. That's our main number, and it'll cascade down to the entire staff, so you don't have to pick one particular person. Just call that main number. You can email us. I like to do the phone calls because emails, they go back and forth, and it's harder to connect with property owners. A property owner can also send us via email if they have a private appraisal or any type of cost to cure, those type of things. But we want to make sure those values are accurate. An open book is a time where we can still make adjustments if they need to. So that's where we want property owners to view your data on your property online. We have that link on our webpage. And you can view that data. And if you see something that's not right, just let us know.
Yeah, it's great to talk with you, get it all explained and help you understand. I think that's the cool thing about open book. So be mindful again that with COVID-19 things have changed a little bit. Set your appointments up, and you guys will be very helpful on helping get everything done and taken care of this year. Amy, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Stay safe out there, and thank you for all your hard work and your staff. Again, you guys have been working tirelessly to get everything in order this year. So thank you.
And thank you for you and your staff for helping us put these videos together and resources out there. So it'll help the property owners, I think, a lot. So thank you.
No problem. All right, Amy, and assessing again, check the website, fitchburgwi.gov, and under the assessing tab, you'll be able to get everything you need to know here for upcoming open book. All right, we'll take a quick break. More to come. You're watching Talking Fitchburg.
Maria, so how's work?
It was fourth period biology. Our students just weren't getting how easily viruses spread. So Miss Bell and I had them role play a zombie virus outbreak. By the time they had all learned the lesson, all the living were dead. Hey, how's your job going?
That big sales meeting I planned? Next year, I might get to go.
Cool.
Give your town a reason to celebrate, because every Goodwill item you bring home brings job training and more to your community. Goodwill, bring good home.
Welcome back into Talking Fitchburg. Wrapping up the show for the day, I want to remind you to stay connected with Fact TV all weekend long. It's fast, it's free, and easy. You can go back and watch the interview that Amy helped us with today and more. Have a safe and fun weekend, everybody. We'll see you back here Monday.